I'm from Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida to be exact. Basically in high school, man, it was, playing football, it was tough. I went to a good program, a good high school at Gibbs High School, and basically, football has always been, it's been a great sport for me. It's been a great time for me. And basically throughout high school, man, I was always under the radar. Coming into my senior year, I had a lot of schools looking at me, interested in me and stuff, but, my size kind of played a big factor in that. So, a lot of schools backed out, and it was hard for me, it was tough for me, but, I kept my faith, and I stayed strong through everything. My senior year, I got invited to an all-star game. That was big for me, especially for my school and everything. And I played great, played good. Even more schools started to contact me and everything. And basically, from that point on to signing day, I was in contact with, various different schools, Ferris State, Assumption College, Northern Arizona, a couple of D2 Division I AA schools to be exact. But they just never, they never pulled the trigger. They never pulled the trigger, to offer me and everything. So that kind of hurt. Going into signing day, I had no clue what school I was going to. So, I didn't sign to a school. Throughout that time period, it was tough for me, trying to figure out where I'm gonna play my next 4 years of football. So from that point on, I stayed strong, I ended up going to a recruiting fair in Tampa, Jefferson High School, and that's where I found out about Adrian College and a couple other small schools, But I still didn't want to make my decision right then and there. So from that point, I took a year off. That year off was basically time just for me to gather myself about what I really wanted to do, where I really wanted to go, And Coach O'Daffer, he's not here at the moment, but he helped me, tremendously, with my decision with coming up here. I mean, he stayed in contact with me throughout the whole year I was out, And I kept telling him that, about my decision, and this is going to take time for me to really, decide what it is I want to do. But he stayed with me throughout the whole thing. Going into, I believe it was January of 2015, I decided to take my visit to Adrian College, and from that point on, it was, I loved it. I loved the experience. I love the campus. I love the atmosphere. The coaching staff, they fell in love with me, and from that point on, it was where I wanted to go. It was where I needed to be. Coming in, it was tough. College football is, is totally different from what you experience in high school. Especially me down in Florida. The atmosphere is different. The weather is totally different, and the speed is, is just different. So coming in, it was tough. I believe I was on fourth string, 3, which is, it's typical for a freshman. For a freshman to come in and be that low on the depth chart. But coming in, I had a purpose. I had a plan. Regardless, who was in front of me, what I had to do. I knew that my talent speaks for itself. So I knew eventually I was gonna get my time, and get my chance. So as camp went on, injuries struck a lot of the starting guys that was in front of me. So with that being said, I was forced to step up. I was next up. So by that time, that brought us into our first game. Before you know it, I was starting. So it was a lot of jitterbugs, going into that game. But I played well. I believe I had 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and an interception. And I was just a freshman, playing outside linebacker, And from that moment on, man, it was my time. It was my moment. It's what I've been waiting for my whole life. It's what I've been working for. Going into this position, going into this chance. As far as expectations, it wasn't so much out of what the coaches demanded out of me, from that point on, from my freshman year, but it was just what I demanded out of myself. All my life, I believed in my ability, I believed what I could do, and now it's just, You know, we just waiting for y'all to see it. You know, I already had this vision. I already knew this was coming. You know. You know, taking everything that I experienced from my freshman year, and you know, and putting into my sophomore year was, you know, it was just basically, you know, the season that I had, you know, it was great and everything, but I knew it was still places that I could, you know, I could improve and I can get better on, and that's what it's all about. You know, I couldn't, you know, just kept looking backwards, you know, reflecting back on my freshman year. Yeah, it was great, but you know, there's so much more that I could do. You know, I got 3 more years. You know, there's so much more that I could do, you know, from that point on within these next 3 years. So, you know, I just, you know, I kept working hard. You know, I kept working my craft, perfecting everything. You know, timing is perfect, you know. And going into my sophomore year, you know, I felt like I exceeded, you know, all expectations, you know, that anybody had for me. You know, I ended up making first team, you know, which is, you know, a big jump from second team to first team, you know, and I improved and, you know, in all my categories. You know, I improved in tackles, I improved in passes deflections, tackles for loss, and it even had, you know, a couple of fumble recoveries and forced fumbles. So for me, that was, you know, that was big for me. I'm all about improvement. I'm all about getting better, you know. So taking that and going into my junior year, you know, you know, I switched positions, I changed positions, ended up playing strong safety. The last 2 years I played outside linebacker. So, you know, the transition from safety, it didn't really hurt me as much, but now it was just, you know, I kind of get a different viewpoint on the field. You know, when you're playing outside linebacker, you kind of have, you know, you're responsible for one side of the field. You know, you're not really worried about what's going on over there. You know, as a safety, you know, your vision is kind of like the whole field, you know, so you kind of see everything. The move was big for me. You know, I was already prepared for it. You know, I made sure that I perfected everything I needed, you know, to be successful at that position. You know, as far as my footwork, you know, reading the quarterback and, you know, things like that. And going into my junior year, you know, it ended up working out. You know, I ended up making first team, you know, as defensive back, as a strong safety. So at the end of my junior season, and now approaching my senior season, you know, I feel as if, you know, I done accomplished everything that I need, you know, as far as on a conference level. You know, I feel like I already proved to everybody that I'm the best player, you know, if not one of the best players, you know, in the conference. Now it's time to, you know, it's time to broaden that, you know, and I'm pushing for nothing less than All-American. You know, it's a big challenge. It's a big step. It's not going to be easy. You know, it's going to require a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. You know, a lot of late nights. You know, and a lot of sacrifice. But you know, it's nothing new to me.